ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनच्छलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः तदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome back to the Bhagavatam class. My apologies, Wednesday, again because of some work pressures, I was unable to do the class. So hopefully Krishna will remove the obstacles so that we can continue the Wednesday classes smoothly. So let us see how things go. Uh, so today we have come to the 15th chapter of the third canto. This chapter is entitled Description of the Kingdom of God. Now, this is perhaps one of the most interesting chapters in the Bhagavad. I cannot say the most, but one of the most, because there are 1 million lessons to be learned from this chapter. So, and this chapter and the lessons in this chapter have been discussed and debated and churned for thousands and thousands of years by millions of devotees. And there is still no end to how much one can learn from this beautiful chapter. Of course, we have only 1 hour now, actually 53 more minutes. So we can only take, we can only do Achman. We cannot drink also. Just take 3 drops and we can just taste a little bit. Anyway, as a service, we will do that to at least begin. And hopefully that will increase our appetite to go deeper. This chapter actually sets the stage for a lot of discussions to come across the third canto. And it's actually a continuation of the pastime of what we have been discussing in the previous chapter, chapter 14, the pregnancy of Diti. So anyway, let us go through the katha, and many beautiful things will unfold as we discuss. So if you remember, in the last class, we discussed about how Kashyapa and Diti, how Diti approached Kashyapa at an inappropriate time, and then she conceived at dusk time, where Lord Shiva was going around with the ghosts. And Kashyap Muni explains to her that because of this offense of yours, you are going to have children, 2 sons, who are going to be extremely demoniac. They are going to be a terror for the universe. So these are the original terrorists. So these two will be a cause of so much harassment and terror for all the good people in the universe. But they will be killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And also a special blessing, because you are repentant, is that your grandson, which is the son of one of your sons, will be a very great devotee. So great practically unparalleled in history. Of course, Kashyap Muni is here predicting about Prahlad Maharaj, son of Hiranyakashipu. So, of course, Diti is pacified. She is happy that even though the sons will be demons, they will eventually be killed by the Lord, because killing by the Lord means they will be liberated and her grandson will be a great devotee. So, in one sense, she is pacified. But as this particular chapter begins, Diti is so worried that she is carrying two dreadful, sinful souls in her womb who are going to terrorize the universe, that by her power, she is not an ordinary personality, these are all great Prajapatis and their wives, she actually did not allow the children to be born for 100 years. With her power, she continued to carry the seed within her, but she didn't allow the seed to grow into the embryo and then become a child. And somehow, it's not explained how, but somehow that austerity that she did, that power that she did to actually restrict the birth of those children, actually led to the universe becoming dark. Now, it is not quite explained in the Bhagavatam how that happened, but somehow that austerity caused the power in the universe. The light of the sun and the moon was actually impaired. And actually, it created disturbance all over the universe. In fact, it is said that the demigods became bewildered. The demigods started looking around, what happened? Why the whole universe is becoming dark? Why the energy of the universe is apparently being like sucked out? So the devatas being worried, they approached Lord Brahma, because even the devatas do not have direct access to Vishnu. And they go to Brahma, and then Brahma, who's the representative, he goes to Vishnu. So they went to Brahmaji and they started glorifying him. Oh, great Brahmaji, please see this darkness which has enveloped the universe. This darkness is causing us great anxieties. And you know everything. You have been created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are the knower of everything. And they glorified many beautiful verses actually glorifying Brahma, explaining how Brahmaji is so qualified that he will surely know both the cause of the problem and also the solution to the problem. So please, Brahmaji, you know everything. You are a special incarnation of the Lord, empowered by the power to create. And you are so powerful, you are so pure. So please help resolve the situation. Now there are many beautiful verses in the middle, but I'm not going to go through everything. Like what I mentioned, I request you to read. And there are 10, 11 verses where Brahmaji is glorified and a lot of beautiful philosophy is there. I do not have time because this chapter is very beautiful. I want to complete this narration today. So please forgive me. You may see that some of the points in some of the shlokas I'm skipping. Essentially, they say that this whole universe is so wonderfully controlled by the arrangement of the Lord, which is effected through Brahmaji. It's as if this whole universe is moving under the tight laws of the nature, under the Vedic laws, just like a bull who is tied with a string in his nose. He's rotating around, but he can only move within that circle based on how long the rope allows him to go. I don't know whether you have seen this. Sometimes, the bulls are yoked to a thread, to a rope actually, not a thread, and they're made to go around, to power a particular kind of a mechanism. But that's as far as they can go. So everybody is controlled by material nature. Sometimes we think we are free, but everything we do is controlled by the laws of nature. So the Devatas say everything is controlled, and you know the whole Vedic system. So now please, you help us to explain what has happened and what is the background to this. Of course, they know that this is caused by the pregnancy of Diti, but they do not know the background of this story, the Devatas. And they are telling Brahmaji, Brahmaji, you know everything. Please tell us so that we can find a solution. Of course, Brahmaji knows everything. And he is in charge to make sure that the Devatas' welfare is taken care. So Brahmaji now starts explaining to the Devatas what is the background of the story. And correct, I mean, this is how the Bhagavatam unfolds, right? Very often you'll see one story, one pastime. And these are of course histories, but this behind this pastime is another pastime. This happened like this because something else happened in the past. And that happened because something else happened. So you will see that ultimately for all of us, for each one of us, we are currently here in this particular situation, this particular time. But this has not happened by chance. And we are all sitting here discussing Srimad Bhagavat on a Saturday evening, 9:15 p.m. Malaysia time, or 6 something in India. Why? So there are so many things in our past which have finally led us to this moment where we are discussing the glories of the Lord on a Saturday evening. So there is always a cause and effect. And nothing we do is without an impact. Everything we do leads and orchestrates our lives in various ways. And of course, there are so many things that we do. Good things, bad things, all of them shape our destiny. Sometimes we blame destiny, sometimes we blame our situation, but we fail to realize who has orchestrated our destiny. We try to point finger at God. Daiva, God, you have brought this upon me, but God has not brought upon anything. God has simply created the mechanism based on the laws of nature. But who is actually the sculptor of our destiny? We ourselves. Who is responsible for where we are today? We ourselves. And who will be responsible for where we will be in the future? We ourselves. So why look for, try to blame others? Of course, help is available. But at the end of the day, we are responsible even whether we decide to take help or not. Lord's blessings are definitely a factor. But the Lord doesn't intervene in our free will. The Lord is not directly responsible for the situation we are in. And this is very important for all of us to understand. We are responsible. And this is a very important point for all spiritual sadhakas to realize that as long as, and I have mentioned this in earlier classes also, as long as we are having a mentality of blaming others for our situation, spiritually or materially, we are actually stunting our own spiritual growth. Spiritual growth entails accepting ownership and responsibility for where we are, whether it's a good situation or a messy situation. And to accept, yes, I'm in this mess because of myself. Now, let me start taking the right decisions in life so that I can start orchestrating my future destiny in the right direction. Tattenukampam susamikshamano bhunjanameva atmakritam vipakam. Atmakrita vipak, whatever activities I have done, the wrong activities, I have created my current miserable situation based on that. So now let me continue to progress in the right direction by worshipping the Lord rather than blaming external situations, so that I can actually progress towards liberation and attaining the lotus feet of the Lord. A person who has this consciousness actually is eligible to achieve the Lord, and not one who's continuously trying to find somebody else to blame for his situation. This is a very big trap, and that's why I'm emphasizing this again and again and again. Please remember, who's responsible for our misfortune? Okay, don't point like this. When you point like this, 3 fingers are pointing towards yourself. So all external situations come back to us because of what we let out in the first place. Our activities, our words, our thoughts, they all come back in terms of situations, people, event, and then we become overwhelmed. And then we again start pointing towards them. But we forget, we ourselves, like a boomerang, right? We leave a boomerang. And then we forgot that we left a boomerang. But after some time, the boomerang comes and hits us. Then we are looking around. Hey, who was that? Who was that? Who was that? Who was that? Who hit me? Who hit me? The point is, we have forgotten that we only threw the boomerang. So karma is like that. Situations are like that. We are looking, oh, this is my wife is responsible for this. My parents are responsible for this. My country is responsible for this. My spiritual teacher is responsible for this. My friends, my boss, my children, my condominium, my office, whatever, mosquitoes, the weather. We always find somebody or something else to blame. Anyway, so this is an important point. So I just wanted to emphasize it again. So Brahmaji is explaining what has led to this situation. So he starts quoting a story to the Devatas because he knows everything. He starts explaining the background of who are these two souls who have come into the womb of Diti, who are creating this darkness. Obviously, they cannot be ordinary people, because even if souls are extremely sinful, no ordinary souls can create this kind of darkness in the whole universe. So obviously, these souls are not ordinary. The Devatas do not know what is their background. So Brahmaji is revealing the background, and he starts by explaining a story long time ago. So what is the story? He begins by narrating the story of how long back the 4 Kumaras, his 4 sons, Sanak, Sanatan, Sanandan, and Sanat Kumar, were created from the mind of Brahma, were the first born in this universe. But they look the youngest. If you remember, we discussed about their creation and how the 4 Kumaras chose to remain 5-year-old boys, even though they are the first. They were created first by Lord Brahma. Even before Lord Shiva got created from the forehead of Lord Brahma, the 4 Kumaras were created. They are the oldest, but they look the youngest because they chose to remain like that. So they are 4 externally looking like 5-year-old boys. And they are so detached because of their spiritual realization that they wear no clothes. So they are called as Digambar. Digambar means Dik Ambar, means those whose clothes are the 8 directions, which means basically naked in very simple words. Dressed in the directions. They are such powerful souls that they can roam around anywhere in the universe, not just in the material universe. They are so spiritually powerful. They can even go beyond the material universe into the spiritual sphere. So it is said, of course, this is not possible for somebody who is not free from matter. You cannot say that I'll take an airplane or a rocket and go beyond the material universe. No, you cannot. By material means, go beyond the material atmosphere into the spiritual atmosphere. But because the 4 Kumaras were spiritually realized, they transcended the material realm and went into the spiritual sky, the Paravyoma. This Vyoma means sky. We are in the region of the material sky. But there is a Paravyoma. Para means spiritual. Vyoma means sky. Paravyoma, the spiritual sky, where there is no influence of material energy or material time. That is the transcendental realm. Like Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, "Nat tad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakah yad gatva na nivartante tad dhamam paramam." That realm of mind, that abode of mind is not illuminated by the material moon or the sun. That is transcendental and eternal abode of mind. So in that Paravyoma, the scriptures describe there are innumerable spiritual planets which are known as Vaikuntha, where the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, personally resides. Of course, God is everywhere, but He is present everywhere, either in His impersonal Brahman aspect or in His aspect of Paramatma, being in the heart of everyone. But God personally, in the Bhagavad Gita, if you remember, Krishna says, "The world is in me. I am inside the world, but I am also separate." Matstani sarvabhutani naham teshu avastitah. Which means that even though the Lord in His Paramatma and Brahman aspect is present everywhere and the world is within Him, in that sense, He maintains His own individual spiritual identity as the Supreme Person, Purushottama, by being situated in a spiritual position in the Paravyoma. This is a very important concept to understand. God's being present everywhere doesn't mean God loses His personality. God maintains His personality, but simultaneously, being unlimited, the Lord can be present everywhere. That is the beauty. And that is why Krishna again and again in the Gita and the Bhagavad says, "He who can understand this point understands me." That I am present everywhere, everything is within me, but still I am independent. This is the great mystery, which many people struggle to understand. So there was the Paravyoma, the spiritual sky, where the Supreme Lord is present. And that sphere is also famous by the word Vaikuntha. I believe all of you must have heard this term, Vaikuntha. Very special. Vaikuntha is what? Vaikuntha means the residence of the Supreme Lord, where the Lord stays with His pure devotees. He is worshipped there by the pure, unadulterated souls who have no tinge of any material contamination. Pure devotees. Interestingly, the word Vaikuntha is not just coined up whimsically. Vaikuntha word itself has a meaning. The word Kuntha means anxiety, and Vai means where there is no. So Vaikuntha means that realm where there is no anxiety. And why there is no anxiety? Because that is the realm of perfect harmony, perfect peace, no shortcomings. It is the realm of perfection. So where is there anxiety? Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha, the word is in the spirit of where is there any anxiety? And what is this material world? Mahakuntha. Kuntha, Kuntha, everywhere Kuntha. There is anxiety everywhere. Right? Just see how much turmoil in this world for the last 1 year. Of course, there's turmoil all the time. It's not the last 1 year has been, but just this one virus. Somebody was saying, I don't know how statistically, I mean, how factually true that data is, but even if you add up all the virus of COVID-19 and actually weight of that virus on a weighing scale, it would be so tiny. All the virus on the whole planet, so small. It will be so insignificant in terms of its weight. But can you imagine that such a tiny, maybe in milligrams, I don't know, or maybe even less, all that virus all over the world, even if added together, will be, less than a gram. But just imagine how much chaos that such a tiny part of matter has created for this whole planet. That is why Bhagavatam describes this material world as padam padam yat vipadam. Means there is danger at every step. You don't know when what will go wrong. Anything can go wrong at any moment. That is why this material world is always called Kuntha. This material world is described in the Bhagavad Gita as Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam, temporary and full of misery. Some of us may be thinking, no, where there is misery, it's so nice. And that is why we are called in Maya, in illusion. Those who are in a dangerous situation but oblivious of the dangerous situation are said to be in illusion. Like a goat who's about to be slaughtered, standing in a line, but happily eating grass, not knowing that very soon its turn is going to come where its head is going to be chopped off. Anyway, I'll not go too much into it, but you get the idea that Vaikuntha is the realm where truly and factually there is no problem. And there the Lord is worshipped. And now begins the description, Brahmaji begins the description of that spiritual world, that realm of Vaikuntha. It's a very, very wonderful description. It's already 9:30. I really doubt I can complete the chapter today. Anyway, let's see. Otherwise, we will do it over 2 sessions. It's so wonderful. It's so important. This concept of understanding Vaikuntha is very important. Please understand, point number 1, this Vaikuntha is not an imaginary realm. And Vaikuntha is not same like the heavens, the heavenly planets where the Devatas reside. The heavens or the heavenly planets are within the material universe. Bhagavad Gita describes Abrahma Bhuvanan Loka Punar Avartino Arjuna. From the highest planet of Brahma Loka to the lowest Patal, in that range, there are the Devatas, all kinds of living entities. They are all within the material realm, and birth and death are there across the full universe. Even the Devatas have to die. They have a long life. They are called Amara because they have a long life, but they are not Amara in the sense that they are actually eternal. No. Even Brahmaji himself is not eternal. And that is why, as later in the same story, we will hear when Hiranyakashipu approached Brahmaji and asked for immortality, Brahmaji said, I cannot give you. I myself don't have immortality. Within the material world, immortality is impossible because material world itself has an expiry date. And the whole existence is wound up after every 311 trillion years, which is roughly the lifetime of Brahma. So how to give anybody immortality? It's impossible. Materially, it is impossible. Immortality is possible only at a spiritual level because the soul itself is immortal. Nainam chindanti shastrani nainam dahati pavakarna chainam kiledayantyapo na shoshayati maruta. The soul being spiritual cannot be burned by fire, cannot be cut by weapons, cannot be moistened by water or dried by the wind. Ajo nityo shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. It is only the soul which is immortal, which never dies, even though the body is destroyed. Even the whole material existence is wound up. The soul continues to exist and is temporarily absorbed into the body of Lord Mahavishnu. Doesn't lose his identity, but is temporarily resting in the body of Mahavishnu. And again, when creation happens, if the soul is not yet fully purified, still has karma, again the karma of the soul is activated after creation is effected. And this goes on, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, until the soul becomes purified of all material contamination and becomes eligible to go back home. So where is this home? Back home. The home is Vaikuntha. So Vaikuntha is the home of all living entities. So some people, they take the material world as all in all, but actually the scriptures explain that this whole material existence, which is Ananta Koti Brahmandas, is actually a very small part of creation. They said in one small corner of the Paravyoma, there is like a cloud which covers the effulgence of the Paravyoma, where this material energy exists. So this material world, the Kuntha, the area of Kuntha, the material world, in the Paravyoma of Vaikuntha is the small area. And the small area is like a prison house. Just like we are now in the city of, I am in the city of Kuala Lumpur at the moment. City is very huge, with so many residents who are generally obeying and following the laws of the government. But then there are some who refuse to follow the laws of the government. What does the government do? It has a police department, catches such people who flout the rules and the law and create disturbance, and they are put into prison. Isn't it? Those who disrupt the harmony of society by disobeying the laws of the society, they are put into prison. For what reason? So that they can be rectified and hopefully they learn their lesson to live harmoniously. They are again given a chance to come back into the society, back into their homes. How big is the prison as compared to the country? Small. And how much percentage of the population is in the prison? Very small. Similarly, the material world, Durga. This material world is like a Durga. It is like a prison where those souls who refuse to live harmoniously with the laws of God, harmoniously in the Vaikuntha realm, they are put into this material world, into this prison, and they are punished with the purpose of rectification, not just punished out of anger, but punished in such a way so that they realize their mistake and realize the need to align themselves with the system of the Lord in which one can eternally live peacefully and happily in the Paravyoma, the realm of Vaikuntha. So what we are saying is, summarily, if I compare the country to Vaikuntha, the prison is the material world. And that is why going to Vaikuntha is like becoming free from the prison and going back home and living happily in the country following the laws of the king or the government. That is the idea of Vaikuntha. So Vaikuntha is in fact unlimitedly more than the material world. So now the description of this Vaikuntha begins. So let us hear this beautiful, attractive narration of the Vaikuntha planets. So now all of us, around 36 families connected right now. So please realize we are all right now in the prison. We are all right now in the prison. So forgive me for calling you a prisoner. Please don't be offended. This is Bhagavad and Gita statement, not my assessment. We are all in the prison. And what are we tied with? We say, no, where am I in the prison? I am free. No, we are not free. We are tied by our karma. We are tied by the modes of material nature. We are tightly bound. Trigunamayi esha mama maya duratyaya. This is very, very difficult to overcome these tight knots made of the three gunas. It doesn't allow us to escape. We are tied. We think we are free, but we are not free. It is an illusion. Right now we are discussing about our home. That home is so nice. Why we got trapped here? It's so nice there. Why did we do mischief? Why were we naughty boys and naughty girls that we have to be put here into the cycle of birth, death, disease, and old age? So, by discussing this, hopefully, we'll all be inspired to go back home and become good boys and good girls according to the definition of Bhagavad. So, when we see, when the prisoner, not the prisoner, the prison keeper sees that we are well behaved, then by the permission of the king or the government, we can be let out of the prison and allowed to go back. So let us listen to the description of the Vaikuntha so that we develop the desire. The problem is most of us don't even realize we are in the prison. I think this prison is actually a wonderful home. I am enjoying it. Such a nice stone to sleep on. Such a nice dry chapati I get to eat. We have become so habituated to the suffering that the suffering has become the norm for us. And we are beginning to enjoy the suffering. That is the illusion, the maya that living entities are. But when we hear the Vaikuntha Katha, our memories of our home and the potential that we have to enjoy pure happiness becomes reawakened. And that becomes the impetus for us to make an endeavor to become free. That is why it is very important to hear of these topics. So Brahmaji starts the description. He says that the Vaikuntha is actually such a beautiful realm. Now, please understand, even Brahmaji is within the prison at the moment. Of course, he's at the top level, but he's still in the prison. He's managing certain things on behalf of the Lord. He's actually, in most cases, practically fully purified, but he's still a part of the system. So he's describing that in the supreme abode, the Paravyoma in the Vaikuntha region, the supreme personality of Godhead, whom we are trying to understand through the Vedas, he is residing there. And in that realm, it is so pure that these contaminating modes of Rajogun and Tamogun, they do not exist. The Vaikuntha realm. In fact, the Vaikuntha realm is the realm of pure existence. Pure existence is known as pure sattva. Sattva actually means existence or pure goodness. So there is pure goodness, Shuddha Sattva. No passion, no Rajoguna, no Tamoguna. And there is such a bliss of that pure, uncontaminated mode of goodness. In that realm of Paravyoma Vaikuntha, there are so many Vaikuntha planets where the Supreme Lord resides in beautiful, beautiful forms. And then he starts describing the Vaikuntha planets. He says, so beautiful. There are beautiful forests which are extremely auspicious. And in those forests, there are not ordinary trees like those on earth. Each and every tree there is Kalpa Vriksha. Because everything in the spiritual world is Chinmaya. It's fully spiritually is itself made of spiritual substance, of Chit Shakti, of spiritual cognizance. Even the trees there are desire trees, wish-fulfilling trees. And all the time, irrespective of season, they are able to give the best of the flowers and the fruits at any time. Even the trees are persons. Just in this material world, trees are actually those living entities who are in very low consciousness. They are given the body of trees. But in the spiritual world, even the trees are as conscious as other entities in the spiritual world. They're just taking that form, that Chinmay spiritual form, just to serve the Lord. So they are spiritual and personal. You can go to a Kalpavriksha and have a chat and talk. They're all Chinmay. There is no difference. In the spiritual world, it is said there is no difference between the body and the soul. soul manifests their beautiful forms, either as trees or birds or animals or human-like forms. But all of these are made of spiritual bodies which are engaged harmoniously in serving the Lord in various ways. So there are this Kalpadrumaha, the Kalpa Vrikshas in the Vaikuntha planets. And in the Vaikuntha planets, there are also those devotees of the Lord who are in human-like forms. But the forms of those who stay in Vaikuntha, it is described that there have some special characteristics. And what is the special characteristic? The forms of the entities in Vaikuntha are very similar to that of the Lord himself. What does that mean? Lord Narayana has a bluish complexion. In the spiritual world, he has 4 arms. And he is decorated with beautiful ornaments. It is said each and every resident of Vaikuntha also has 4 arms, also has a bluish complexion, and looks very similar to Lord Narayan. In fact, there are stories mentioned in the scriptures, past times, where some devotees or other entities have seen the residents of the Vaikunthas, the Vishnu Dutas, and they thought that it was actually Lord Narayan or Lord Vishnu. But then the Vishnu Dutas clarified, no, I am not Narayan, I am a servant of Narayan. I am looking like him because everybody in Vaikuntha is like this. They have 4 arms. So this kind of liberation is known as Sarupya Mukti. In the Vaikuntha, all living entities have Sarupya Mukti. They have a form like Narayan. Of course, there are some slight differences. And of course, the beauty and the splendor of Lord Narayan himself is far greater than the Vaikuntha residents. But essentially, the form is very similar. The Lord has very special characteristics, and those are described in the subsequent verses, and we will come to that. So, residents of Vaikuntha who are residing on that planet where the Supreme Lord personally resides, they are flying around that beautiful planet in airplanes, Vaikuntha Airlines. So, they have their personal aircrafts. They are hovering around, flying along with their consorts, their wives. And what are they doing? As they are flying around, they are singing the glories of the Lord. They are enjoying that. And they are so absorbed in singing as they are flying over Vaikuntha, the beautiful forests. As they are flying, even though there is such sweet fragrance of the Madhavi flowers which are laden with honey, they are not distracted in their singing the glories of the Lord. Such a pleasing environment. Everybody in Vaikuntha is absorbed in singing the glories of the Lord, and everybody wants to hear the other singing. It is said the bees which are going from flower to flower, they are humming the glories of the Lord in a high pitch. And as they are humming, these beautiful birds, the pigeons, the cuckoos, the cranes, the chakravak, the swans, the parrots, the partridge, the peacocks, all these beautiful birds, which are themselves making beautiful sounds, glorifying the Lord, when they hear the beautiful humming of the bee, singing the glories of the Lord, they also become quiet because they also want to hear beautiful glories which are being sung by the bee. Now, please understand, whether it's a parrot, whether it's a bee, whether it's a pigeon or a peacock, all of these entities within Vaikuntha are perfect spiritual beings who have taken that form. They are not like bees who are in mode of, practically in mode of ignorance, very low species, just like on the earth. No, they are perfected personalities who have attained that state and are singing the glories of the Lord in Vaikuntha. There are beautiful flowers, and the description of the flowers is given. The Mandara, Kunda, Kurabaka, Utpala, Champak. Some of these flowers, of course, there will be corresponding names that we see of flowers here. Punnaga, Nagakeshara, Bakula, Lily, Parijat, all these flowers are described in the Vaikuntha planets. They have such beautiful fragrance that spreads aroma all over Vaikuntha, but still Tulasi is considered the best. Even in Vaikuntha, all these flowers have beautiful smell, but they all bow down and accept that Tulasi is the best because Tulsi is given special place by the Lord and she has always the opportunity to rest on the lotus feet of the Lord. So everybody accepts Tulasi is the best. Now some of you may say, Are, how come all these flowers, the Parijat is there on the earth, the lily is there on the earth? So did somebody take the seeds of all these things, all these plants from the earth and go to Vaikuntha and plant them? How come in the Vaikuntha the similar kinds of birds are there like the earth? So the scriptures explain that actually the material world is created like a reflection of the spiritual world. All these varieties that we see in the material world are actually coming from the spiritual world. The spiritual world is the original, not the material world. The material world has something similar, which is a reflection or a semblance of the variety which exists in the spiritual world. In fact, the variety in the spiritual world is said to be unlimitedly more than the variety we find in the material world. So material world is a subset of the variety that is there. And of course, in the material world, it is of material nature. In the spiritual world, it is pure and transcendent. So just so that you can relate to, in case you are wondering why a parrot, how come a parrot went to Vaikuntha? No, there are eternally existing beautiful species in Vaikuntha, all who are fully spiritual in nature. And similar species are reflected in the material world. But in the material world, species have a hierarchy based on the evolution of consciousness. But in the spiritual world, no matter what a living entity is, whatever form, they're all equally spiritually qualified. There is no lower or higher. They're all different forms only because they want to serve the Lord in different rasas. This topic, if you don't understand right now, it's okay. We will discuss about this in more detail as we go into subsequent classes. But just keep this in mind that we cannot say higher and lower in Vaikuntha just based on the shape that a particular entity takes. And it is said, these residents of Vaikuntha who are flying in these airplanes are so beautiful. It's not like the airplanes that we travel in, where you need to keep you are crammed in small seats, where you have to put a seat belt, and you never know when there'll be turbulence, and then oxygen mask will come, and then you also have a bag kept in your front pouch, and for what purpose that is kept. If there is too much turbulence, some people need to use that bag. All these inconveniences are not there in the Vaikuntha Airlines. The airplanes are said to be made of gems and golds and diamonds and emeralds. And the residents, along with their family members, they are flying in those airplanes. And both the residents and their consorts are extremely beautiful. It is said, even though the consorts of the Vaikuntha Vasis are extremely beautiful, of course, the consorts themselves are perfected souls. So are the Vaikuntha four-armed men. Even though they are so beautiful and they are looking at each other, they are not agitated by any material desire or lust. They are fully absorbed in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is said the smiles of the consorts, the wives of the Vaikuntha Vasis, do not agitate the minds of the Vaikuntha Vasis, because there is no mode of passion in Vaikuntha. There is no lust, there is no greed, there is no anger. In fact, the ladies in Vaikuntha, it is described, their beauty is like Lakshmi Devi. Of course, Lakshmi Devi's beauty is super excellent, But they have just like the residents of Vaikuntha, their form is similar to that of Lord Narayan. The female residents, those who have female-like bodies in Vaikuntha, their form resembles that of Lakshmi Devi, the personal consort of the Lord. And these ladies who have these Vaikuntha Vasis and their consorts, they also have beautiful palaces in Vaikuntha. And those palaces themselves are extremely beautiful, made of the most costliest spiritual material. And these ladies who are there in Vaikuntha, wearing beautiful ornaments and beautiful clothes, it is said that they are sometimes seen sweeping the marble on the walls in Vaikuntha. Now you may wonder, oh, what is the need to sweep in Vaikuntha? Is there also some dust in Vaikuntha, just like here? We need sometimes a maid to come and do the cleaning. So the Bhagavatam says that these ladies in Vaikuntha who do the cleaning, sometimes even Lakshmi Devi does herself. He said they do that just because they want to do some seva to the Supreme Lord. And why they want to do seva? So that they can attract the attention of the Lord of Vaikuntha, Lord Narayan, and receive his favor, his sweet, affectionate glance. That is why they are doing some seva. So imagine, even in Vaikuntha, everybody is trying to be busy in doing some seva, because this seva dharma is something which is extremely pleasing to the Lord, and it draws the Lord's attention. But Lakshmi Devi, who's personally the direct consort of the Lord, she has her own palace and her own garden. And in that palace and that garden, where there are beautiful lakes, of whose the banks are paved with corals, there are beautiful transcendental reservoirs. She is worshipping the Lord there in that palace with beautiful tulasi. And it is said that she looks extraordinarily beautiful. And it is said that her face, which is already beautiful, when that face of Lakshmi Devi is kissed by Lord Narayan, it becomes even more beautiful, because her smile, when she is kissed by Lord Narayan, becomes even more beautiful. It is said when a lady receives the affection of her husband, then her face even becomes more beautiful. So similarly, it is said that the beauty of Lakshmi Devi even becomes more beautiful by the affection of Lord Narayan. So after describing this much, Lord Brahma says, it is so regrettable that this Vaikuntha, our home, is so beautiful, is so wonderful. It is so opulent, so full of happiness, so full of variety, so full of sweetness, so full of peace, everything auspicious, so bereft of all anxiety. But who is interested in discussing this topic? It's so sad that people in prison are trying to be happy in the prison rather than remembering the beauty of the home. That is why those people who are not interested in that Vaikuntha are put into this place of. Brahmaji then starts telling the Devatas, please understand, O Devatas, in this world, this human life is so important. You are all Devatas, but you don't understand. Even more important than your life or your form as a Devata is a human life. Because in this human life, one has all the facility to achieve spiritual perfection and go to achieve Vaikuntha. And that is why those who achieve this human form of life and do not discuss about these topics that we are speaking about, they are the most unfortunate. And that is why they are condemned to remain within the realm of Kuntha. They'll remain in prison. Because unless one rectifies one's mentality and becomes harmonious towards the Lord, one cannot attain the Vaikuntha planets. That is why those living entities who don't want to hear the glories of the Lord, they can never achieve the transcendental realm. And that transcendental realm of Vaikuntha is desirable not just for humans, but even for us Devatas. Brahmaji says, even I want to go there. Because that is the real home for all living entities across the 14 planetary systems in this material world. So I'll take a pause here. We have reached verse 25. So we are exactly halfway in this chapter. This chapter has 50 verses and we have reached 25. So effectively where we have come in our story is that the residents, the description of the Vaikuntha has been given, a perfect realm where the Lord resides eternally with his devotees in perfect opulence, perfect happiness, absence of any misery, the eternal home of all living entities. And these four Kumaras, who are the firstborn sons of Brahma, who have spiritual realization but have never seen the Lord, they decide to come to the area of Paravyoma and come to Vaikuntha with a desire to see the Lord. And the description of the Vaikuntha is given. And now the story enters the part where these four Kumaras come and approach the Vaikuntha planet and start entering into Vaikuntha. So now is just the beginning of the story. Okay, so we'll continue this pastime. It's very beautiful. And now the real lessons will actually start, because there is a lot of very, very interesting interaction and very beautiful dynamism which happens. So actually, I'm happy I didn't rush through. I think if I had rushed through, we wouldn't have been able to discuss about our beautiful home, the spiritual world. So hopefully with this brief description, the whole purpose of this brief description is so that it attracts us to be free from our prison and go back home. So I hope you all are attracted. If you are attracted, please raise your hand in Zoom by using the raise hand icon. Yes, Bhaskar is attracted.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Suraj.
I have a question. Not sure whether it makes sense.
Okay, go ahead.
My query is, Prabhuji, like when Sanal Kumaras, they are going to the Vaikuntha planets, or anyone who is going to Vaikuntha planets, do they still go with their material body? Because for my understanding, our actual body gets into Vaikuntha if we are qualified.
Yeah. So all that we'll discuss in the next class, but essentially we cannot go with material bodies into Vaikuntha. Yeah. Very, very advanced souls like Narad Muni and the Kumaras. The Kumaras actually did not enter Vaikuntha. They were almost at the gates. So we'll discuss that in the story. They didn't quite enter, but they were at the gate. Of course, Narad Muni is a very, very special personality because he has practically a spiritual body. So he can actually switch and interact both with the material world and the spiritual world. But in general, it is not possible for a living entity with a material body to go unless the material body is transformed into a spiritual body, which is possible only for very, very, very advanced souls.
So Brahmaji is an exception when they go to that.
Brahmaji cannot go.
Okay.
Brahmaji cannot go. Narad Muni can go, but Brahmaji cannot go. Brahmaji can only go to the Shvetadvipa planet, which is a planet in this material world, which has the ocean of milk. And within that ocean of milk, that planet is almost like a Vaikuntha, but it is not in Vaikuntha. It is within the material world. But it is very spiritual. And within that ocean of milk, on the Ananta Shesh, Shirodakshay Vishnu is lying. But even the Devatas cannot approach Lord Vishnu directly there. Even Brahmaji cannot.
So Prabhuji, everything happens at the Brahma Jyoti level in that case. Those who are not spiritual, I mean, who whatever prayers they're offering to God.
What do you mean Brahma Jyoti level?
I mean, the Brahman and the concept is there. Yeah.
No. Okay, so that we'll discuss in the next class. Not quite like that. Yeah. But we'll discuss about that in the next class. That will hopefully make it clear.
Yeah.
If it is not clear, you can bring up that question.
Oh, no issue. It will be clear because I've been attending your classes, right? So clear. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? So a lot of hands raised. So I'm happy that you are encouraged and enthused. So if you're not, then you have to keep hearing the topic so you become enthused. Because this is ultimately the supreme reality. Anything else from anyone?
Bo, Hare Krishna, bro.
Yes, Sudhir Sundar Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Bo, as far as the activities in the Vaikuntha planet, which involve the what is the Supreme Lord itself, all these activities are what is that? What I want to say, they are continuously ongoing, isn't it? There is no such time. I mean, what is that? There is no such thing as an beginning, as an
Yes.
and what end, isn't it? They are like,
Yes,
as
the
what
living
compared
entities in
material
Vaikuntha
world where
are eternally residing there and eternally glorifying the Lord. So there is no end. There is no beginning and there is no end. So in that sense, time is not there. Time is absent. Not does not mean in the sense that there are no activities, but there is no time in the sense that there is no deterioration. The energy of Kala or time in the material world always brings about decay and destruction. There is a birth and a death, but time is absent in the sense that in the Chid world, the spiritual world, material time is absent because there is no deterioration. All living entities there, and this is discussed, we'll discuss this in the next time, the next verses, that everybody is eternally young and remains like that. Can we remain like that in the material world? We cannot, correct? We have a young body, but continuously there are transformation processes happening by the influence of time, and the body is continuously undergoing change. Time means change. In spiritual world, there is no deterioration, there is no debilitating effect of time. So in that sense, time is absent. Yeah. Okay, I hope that
okay, Prabhu.
helped. Yeah. The rest you can find out when you reach Vaikuntha. Because we can only discuss so much from our perspective here. We cannot fully fathom some of these things because we have no direct experience of it. Any other question? Okay, so thank you very much. Yeah, so always an intense desire to go back home is the prime qualification of getting out from the material world. Yeah. So when we hear about the Lord, the Vaikuntha planet, and the wonderful relationship and the wonderful experience of having that connection with the Lord, it becomes a strong impetus for us to work towards attaining that. And that is very important. That intense eagerness to go there is very important. So hopefully by hearing all these beautiful descriptions, we develop that spiritual appetite. And then the spiritual appetite will give us the necessary determination. Of course, we have to keep hearing it so that we maintain that determination, because it is not a overnight transformation or a journey. It's a journey of a lifetime. But regularly listening to Bhagavad, we can always remain focused in that direction. that we are never deterred in our journey. Okay, so thank you. I see some who have joined new, so I welcome those who have joined. I saw some connections, maybe they have disconnected now. Yeah, I think right now, I think most of the attendees, I think I can relate to the names. Yeah. Okay, so thank you all very much. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
Jai.
Prabhupada, Samaveta Gaura.
Jai Krishna.